Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I'll bring to you a DbD discussion video. I've done more of these than not recently, which is weird because my channel kind of does this ebb and flow where build videos for a lot, then discussion, then build. But I appreciate you all for being here for whatever you're here for. The reason that I do so many discussion videos, besides when DbD is looking a bit stale for me, is also because times like these where there are there are things that the community is talking about that making a video on it at least gives me some relief versus interacting with the stupidity that is Reddit and Twitter. Oh man, there are some bad takes there, some bad arguments, and me typing there will not make it any better. For them, for me, for anybody really. Where, if I make it a video, I at least get something out of it. You all click, some of you comment, some of you yell at me, but that's still a comment, the algorithm's happy, and I guess I'm happy. I'm not getting paid for this right now, so, it's not that deep where, oh, he's just trying to make money off of it. I don't have subscriptions or anything turned on right now, so it's not that deep, but hey, at least I get something out of it instead of just arguing with somebody randomly on the internet. So today's discussion, if you can see by the thumbnail and probably the title, is this perk here. Scorch Hook Pain Res. I've been seeing a lot of dumb arguments about this perk lately. And man, I don't get it. I don't get it. I think when people see something constantly, they think that means that it's automatically needs a nerf or is problematic. Windows of Opportunity, you see it constantly, doesn't need a nerf, and it isn't problematic. Scorch Hook Pain Resonance, yeah, you see it constantly, it's good, doesn't need a nerf, and it's not problematic. I'm gonna put that out there now. If you disagree on that statement, I don't care, actually. I don't care because you have to be joking. I've seen a lot of people talk about pain res and how they're tired of seeing it, whereas this is probably one of the best options, but it's completely fair. And I think that's something that people are definitely forgetting. It has essentially the same requirement as pop, and you can use it way less than pop. Like, are we forgetting that? Pop is, current gen progress, and this is overall progress. But it only applies to one gen, and you can only do it 4 times. And that one gen is the most progressed gen. So you don't really have control over what. Say if there's a gen that you didn't really care about, letting pop. Once you get to playing this game, you start to understand, alright, I do not care about that gen on main, on the top building. I'm not going to defend it. They can have it. I'm going to focus on the other ones. If that's the one that's the most progressed and pain res goes off on it, yeah, that's not great for you if you know how to play this game to the point that you didn't care about that gen anyway. Whereas pop, you can take it somewhere else. And does that mean that pop needs a nerf? No, no, no. That means that I find any discussion around this right now to be absolutely stupid. Let's go over what pain res does first. Overwhelming pain reverberates through outwards into chaos. At the start of the trial, up to 4 random hooks are changed into scourge hooks. You see their auras in white. You start the trial with 4 tokens. The first time, each time a survivor is hooked on a scourge hook, lose 1 token, and the gen with the most progress explodes, instantly losing 25% progress, and will start to regress. Once you have no tokens, pain res deactivates for the rest of the trial. This is one of the most fair perks we've seen in the game pretty much ever. And to see that people are talking about it needing nerf just because they're seeing it more often is pretty darn dumb. I gotta be pretty flippin' honest, right? And I know that this discussion was, I don't want to say started, but I have a rough idea of who started it. And it's really surprising that they did, if I'm being honest with you. I I think they should know better, which is, I'm kind of lost for words on it. I'm not going to harp on it too much, and if you know who started this conversation, you know, right? But for them to bring this up as something that needs to be addressed, quote unquote, is ridiculous, and they genuinely should know better, and I can't help but think that they're doing it for clicks. Which is, very mean to say, I guess, but also very point fingers at. When I say these things, I don't mean it nearly as aggressively as I come off sometimes. I'm very blunt. I don't care if somebody does something just for clicks, essentially. But if we're going to be for real right now, to say that this perk needs to be addressed in its current state, you're doing it for clicks. You get 4 uses of it. You do not benefit from tunneling out of the game from somebody. You don't have much, what's the word I'm looking for? Much, not control over it, but yeah, there is a lack of control over it. More, it's not very malleable. You can't really direct it per se, because it's the most progressed gen at the time. And you have to be careful about when you let those go. If you get the first down, you put a scourge hook, put somebody on a scourge hook, pain res, the most exploded gen at 5 gen still, hey, you've bought yourself some more time, but let's be real, if you got it immediately, that was probably the gen that the other 3 of them spawned on anyway, so you just saved yourself 5 seconds. You heard that they're all on the gen, and meanwhile you are now down to 3 tokens left on something you knew that was going to pop anyway, and you can only use it 3 more times over the rest of the trial. And let's just remember, you get 4 tokens. That means, and the way they work is 1 for each person. So for 1/3 of the game is how active, or how many times you can activate this perk. Out of 12 hook game at the max, you can only activate this for 1/3 of that. And as we all know, you don't always get to see everybody throughout the game. If you've played with No Way Out, or better yet, if you've played with Artist Other Teachable, Grim and Braze, you know for a fact how hard it can be sometimes to actually get 4 tokens, or to actually see everybody, and get them on a hook before it's too late for the entirety of the game, right? With Grim and Braze, it's all or nothing. And with Pain Res, you are guaranteed to get some value out of it. But just, you might not get all of the value out of it. If you don't get 4 hooks for both of these perks by the time the last gen pops, that's a waste. And for Grim Embrace, you get nothing. At its current, you get nothing if you did not find that last person before that last gen pops. And if you didn't hook everybody before that last gen pops, you got only 3 out of 4. Guess what? You had it for 1/4 of the game. So are we being for real that we're actually talking about pain res being something that needs to be addressed? And yes, it's one of those perks that's going to work better on the people that are already good and worse on the people that aren't. If you look at the roster, yes, Nurse is going to have a better time getting those 4 pain res tokens off compared to Mikey. That's very true. But it's one of those fair perks where the value doesn't change. If you put Pop on Nurse, guess what? You are probably going to get many more uses of Pop with Nurse than you were with Mikey, right? Let's be honest now. So, in a 12 hook game, sure. Let's just imagine both of them got their 12 hooks throughout the course of the game. Realistically, you probably were able to get those 12 hooks easier with Pop on Nurse Then you worry about putting Pop on Mikey, somebody who has to slow down. Look at somebody, literally, he just slows down for part of his power. Part of his power is slowing down, okay? And then taking the Pop over to a gen, and then finding somebody and chasing them as a basic M1 baddie. It's ridiculous. Or if you put Pop on Huntress, you're going to get probably better value than Mikey, because Mikey is very bad right now, but you're still going to get less value than from you would with Nurse, because you still have to go reload as a 110 baddie on top of that. So let's be for real when we're talking about pain res. You don't benefit from tunneling somebody off with this. If you tunnel, you are actively working against yourself because, hey, alright, you've done the tunnel thing. 2 gens pop, but 1 person's out of the game, and you got 3 tokens left. But that's not to say that you don't know what the progress of the other ones are, because you've been focused on 1 person the entire time. At least with something like Pop, if you tunnel, you are going to get that value again. You put somebody down, you got the Pop off, you pop the gen that's most progressed, the one that you think would have better area control, whatever it is. You pop a gen, put somebody on the hook, and you pop the gen next to them, whatever it may be. You bring it back, and you keep doing that every time you put that same person on the hook. You can't do that with pain res. So why am I ever seeing on my timeline that just because this is one of the most used perks, it needs to be addressed? Same with this one. This is another one that's very stupid. That, again, people that should know better are talking about this. Just because it's used often does not mean that it is the best in the game. Now, mind you, this is something that I'll talk about on the flip side in a second after I, go through Corrupt. Corrupt is one that you see kind of semi-often, but depending on how good you are, you might not get too much value out of it because it deactivates when somebody goes down. Sure, you could play that little game where you just get a bunch of injures for the first 2 minutes of the trial. Awesome. Somebody's on a gen. Somebody has resilience on a gen. Somebody is just already healed up. They didn't even take a med kit because you're playing hit and run for the first 2 minutes. They had nothing better to do. They healed up, right? And you got nothing out of it. Or if you are really good and your first chase is extremely fast, which most people tell you is a good thing, guess what? You've already deactivated your perk. So why am I seeing a conversation that these need to be addressed because they're used? That's like me asking for Sprint Burst to get nerfed. And you go, but people did do that. Oh. Let's talk about when people wanted Sprint Burst to be nerfed. Yeah, no, that happened by... Not really. Nobody said that. Everybody expected people to want Sprint Burst to be nerfed because, ooh, with Dead Hard gone, people are going to be so upset when we just all Sprint Burst away from them. And then everybody's like, yeah, but I have at least Fearmonger or back to its rightful name of Mindbreaker. Right? It is back to its name now. Yes, okay. With Mindbreaker, you just stop that exhaustion they can't use it. And then they go, well, you're just helping me 99 my Sprint Burst. And then people quickly found out they weren't as good as they thought they were against 99 in Sprint Burst with Mindbreaker in play. Surprise, surprise. Alright. So, you take things like that, and it's very stupid to then equate them to needing to be addressed because they're used often. Another perk that is used fairly often, or was with MFT around, was Resilience. But guess what? The one that everybody wanted touched was MFT. Not so much Resilience. Everybody understands that Adrenaline and Hope is also pretty darn dumb. Pretty darn good. You keep seeing it. You see Adrenaline in your games. Nobody's telling you to nerf Adrenaline. So why on earth am I seeing, and this isn't, before you go, but this is us versus them. No, I'm talking about perks that are used commonly for both sides. This is tying into also how I feel about save the best for last. Is it good? Sure. Does it need to be addressed? No, it doesn't. And that might be a separate video. Because you have to be off your rocker to think that save the best for last genuinely needs to be touched. Because of what? At most, you take off 2 tokens from it and then, what, call it a day, I guess? But it's not this overwhelming force that people try to make these 3 seem. Am I tired of seeing these? Yes, but again, like I've talked about in in a video that I got more views on it than I thought I would, if I'm being honest, and more people upsetty spaghetti than I thought would be, is also just not that many good and fun perks to use at this current state of time. And especially now, with Stranger Things being back in full capacity, there is no free gen regression perk for the bad guy side. There's none. Now that Surge is back to being called Jolt, not Jolting, I mean Jolt is being called back to being Surge. Oh, jeez. Yep. Oh. Yeah. It's no longer general. It's no longer free. You don't have this anymore. And if you're going to buy something, you might as well buy one that affects more than a 32-meter radius on a basic attack, right? I might as well buy one that actually works on the most progressed gen and teaches me not to tunnel. I might as well use it on the one. Where are we going with this? I could have just typed it in, but hey, we are locked in. I could have just used it on the one. That after I hook somebody, I knock off 30% of current progress, and I get to do it every time I hook somebody, tunneling or not. So I'm not going to spend money on Surge, right? And that's why you're not seeing other perks. Not because they're this grand awesomeness for each one. We don't have those anymore. If I'm being quite frank with you, we don't have those anymore. This being tied to current progress is not, it doesn't make it terrible, but it does not make it nearly as good as it used to be, or people seem to think it is. I have people that are going on, now, you know what? Nope, let me stop there because that's mean. But, again, I'll just say, people that should know better about balance in this game are making some really bad takes lately, either because they're burnt out, they're doing it for clicks, or we've just lost it. We've literally just lost, we're lost in the sauce at this point. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on truly. Why am I seeing discussions over these over these 4 really? I want to see discussions over perks that you get a lot for a little. All of these have some stipulation where you are fulfilling what you need to do on this side. And I'm just talking about this side because this is the one that I mainly play, and I don't want to make it us versus them, as some people seem to think that's what talking about one side necessarily means. So once more, if you're this deep into the video, usually the people that are angry aren't this far, but if you are, just because we're talking about this side right here and how this isn't a problem because it is the most used for this side does not mean it makes it a problem of the other side too. But in general, if you're watching this video, these 4 don't need to be touched any further. In the current state of the game, what is starving right now is variety. Chucky just released, and his perks they exist. Let's be perfectly honest, they exist, right? Are you using this every game? No. Are you using this every game? No. Are you using this every game? No. All of these are okay. This can be used for some funny ha-has. Do I expect you to use it often? No. That 1.5 second blind is nothing. Truthfully, it's really not much. Runs to the end. It's good information. I could just bring barbecue. I could just bring ultimate weapon, and I'll talk about that next. Batteries included, not even worth the fact it wasn't worth the nerf. I'll be straight up. It wasn't worth the nerf, and that's why it's probably getting reverted if everybody keeps to their word at behavior. That, from what I understand, it wasn't worth it. Then we go back one more. Xenomorph. This perk, I've seen a lot of people talk about it, and I've already talked about it. And until there's better perks that give you workarounds, I cannot care about the state of Ultimate Weapon. My thing with DbD right now, when it comes to perks, is that if you are going to nerf perks, you have to make better overall perks. If the runner-up to Ultimate Weapon is barbecue and chili, and people have been running distortion forever because it covers so many things in this game. It covers the lethals, it covers the barbecues, it covers the nurse's calling, it covers the alien instinct. Alright, it covers everything involving auras with distortion. I do not give a flippity flub if this one makes people scream. I don't. I can't be asked to care. Because there is still a counter perk, and you're going to tell me, but I'm having people run the calm spirit to avoid ultimate weapon? That's not fair. That's bad design. Guess what? I'm running ultimate weapon because people are running distortion. So how is that the one? I would like to find people, but I can't do that with distortion. So if you to never be found needs to run distortion and calm spirit, and for me to have a chance to find you, I need to run both barbecue and chili and or ultimate weapon. Guess what? That's the state of the game. So until we have better tracking perks that aren't just aura based and might give me some screams, such as da-da-da-da, friends to the end. This is good. This is good. This is a good start. But man, you still block out that aura part for half of it. If it just made it screams, that'd be dope. But then you have more problems down the line because of interactions and so on and so forth. But we've gotten far away from pain res. And I understand when I get this far gone down the rabbit hole that people start to lose what my ultimate point is. So I'll just address it one last time before we end this off here. Just because something is seen often does not mean that it always needs to be touched. And some perks in this game are used often because there isn't anything better. That's why you got the slew of these. And truthfully, that's why you got this. Be upset if you want to. Talk about this if you want to. But that's my spiel on it. And this is better than me ranting on Twitter and Reddit, where I get nothing out of it besides people being mean to me over an opinion. At least this way, hey, you had to click on the video, right? So, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment from me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.